Well, we've got a gorgeous day today. It's spring now here in the Southern Hemisphere and in Perth, WA. And I'm up the local park. I've got my coffee here and I've also got a panini salad roll, and I'm going to enjoy those a bit after I make the video. But the question today is, are tubeless and hookless dangerous? And when I say dangerous, I don't mean like dangerous like the consequence is death, like falling off a cliff. I'm talking about dangerous could give you some personal harm. You could get some stuff in your eyes, or you could get something caught in your skin. It may not kill you or put you in hospital, but it will give you some injury. Or if it failed while I was riding, yes, it could put you in hospital. So when I say dangerous, there is a risk of some injury. And I do believe that this is partly because of the system and partly because of the way the product is represented or sold in the cycling industry. And if you look at other industries, they have all sorts of regulations and safety guards to protect people from injury or harm. But in the cycling industry, it seems to be like a tier below, and there's not that same level of protection for injury from those products. So let's roll the intro, and it's my new intro, guys, so enjoy. And then we can talk about why I believe that hookless and tubeless systems are dangerous, and why the industry needs to lift their game and make it aware to people, especially people who are using these systems for the first time, what the dangers are with these systems. Now, when we look at other industries, for example, like petrol, or in the States, I think you call it gas, but basically hydrocarbons that can catch fire, they have a very high joule of energy, and they can cause significant injury, like at a petrol station, or if you're storing it in your garage, you have special containers because you want to power your mower, and so on. Now, when you look at that product, petroleum or petroleum products that can ignite, and well, they call them an accelerator, and they can cause significant injury and damage to property. There's a lot of very significant regulations in place. Now, the first thing as well is you can't sell any containers unless they've been obviously tested and they're approved. So the containers you put that type of product in are managed and regulated. And also, when you go to a service station, you can't use your mobile phone, and those service stations have to be built and designed to very stringent regulations to make sure that that high amount of fuel is contained and is safe. Now, when we look at the bicycle industry, we find that there's a number of lacking initiatives in that industry, especially to do with quality control and also new technologies and products, and what you have to do to maintain or look after those products. And this is where I see hookless and tubeless are really not offering the information they should. So for instance, if you buy a normal rim, or you buy a, what they used to call them years ago, two-way rims, or a tubeless ready rim, or you buy a tyre that's a clincher, or you buy like a TLR, now they call them, tubeless ready tyre, and you have to put sealant in it, or you may put an insert in it. There's no real guidance or instructions or warnings that come with those products. And the reason I say that is because a lot of people, they put them on and they watch YouTube channels and they use high pressure to make them seat and bead. There's soap to be involved, there's sealant to be involved, which could be a risk of explosion, could get in your eyes, could irritate your eyes, could damage your eyes. And the biggest problem is a lot of people also go down the garage and they use compressors and things like that. And with compressors, you have a very lot of energy and can make the tyre explode off the rim. Or if you run the tyres at too high a pressure, they could actually fail or explode, or the rim could fail and explode whilst you're riding along. And I don't think the awareness in the cycling industry to the limitations of these new technologies is really that well known. So let's just have a little bit of a talk about what you need to be aware of with these tyre systems. Now, a lot of people are running tubeless and they're running them quite successfully. And once you're used to using it and used it a number of times and you've done a little bit of research on it, you can get them to work and run, and they perform as advertised. But they are not the most easiest system to set up. They're a complicated system, and there's a lot of things that you need to be aware of. And this is where I think the cycling industry, or the people making tubeless tyres and hookless tyres, are not giving that information. Like, if you go and buy a new giant bike, you're going to get hookless rims on it. Now, I don't know what the instructions have been in the shops, but generally salespeople in bike shops don't really tell you that much, how to use the gears and things like that, but they don't go into detail about, oh, this bike's got hookless rims on it, and what you need to do and be aware of when you're running them. Now, we do have a guideline that some of the manufacturers are following, and that's ETRTO, and what that does is that has a limit of 72 psi for hookless rims. Now, tubeless rims can go higher that have hooks on them, but the hookless can't. But even still, I believe the limitations, especially with the bigger and wider tyres, is that you should keep your pressures down. If you're running something like a 28, you really shouldn't be going above 60, 65 psi. You should keep your pressures fairly low. You don't need to be having 90 or 100 psi in a 28mm tyre. In fact, they're not even designed to work like that. That's the whole benefit of having a wider tyre, because you get more comfort and you get more supple sidewalls, and it's also got to do with rolling resistance that they claim, but I'm not a big believer in the gains that they claim with rolling resistance. I think it's significant. It's insignificantly small. But anyway, Peak Talk's going to be doing some tests on that, so we'll get to see what comes out of Peak Talk's test. But getting back to tubeless and hookless, people should be aware that these things are relying more on the tyre construction, because it's not the hooks that's holding those tyres on the rim. It's a number of things. It's the threads that are built into the tyre. There's no tube pressing onto the hooks to hold the tyre on, like with a normal clincher that's not a tubeless. In a tubeless tyre, you're relying on these unstretchable threads in the tyre. Same with hookless. They're both the similar sort of construction, except you are getting a little bit more bonding with the hook, because it has to roll over the hook, but with a hookless it can just slide out. And then there's all sorts of things in making sure that they've sealed properly. Check with soapy water after you fit the tyre. Don't use too much pressure. When you use a compressor, you can blow the tyre off the rim, so you should be extremely careful doing that, or wear safety glasses or some sort of protection. And also, you need to be aware of what pressures you're running. And I don't think that's widely known. I don't think a lot of people are really aware that there is a maximum limit of 72 psi. And of course, some manufacturers are not even following those pressure regulations. That is just some, because it's not a standard. A lot of people call it a standard. It's not a standard. It's an industry guideline. And you don't have to follow it. There's no mandatory European, American or Australian rules or regulation that says you have to follow these. So that's just in the goodwill of those manufacturers for safety reasons are stipulating we're going to comply to the ETRTO guideline, and the maximum pressure with this system is 72 psi. So in conclusion, if you're fairly new to tubeless, or you're thinking of using tubeless, which is hookless and tubeless, they're kind of the same thing. The only difference is there's a hook, but the construction of the tyres is very, very similar, and the way they're held onto the rim is very, very similar. Just be aware that you need to be very careful about matching tyres and rims, because the standards haven't been set, and some tyres go on rims very easily, and some tyres go on other rims or other tyres hard. You can have problems. Some can go on well, some can go on easy. And then, of course, you need to put the sealant in, and if it doesn't go on easy, you can end up with sealant everywhere. And then if you try and then use some high pressure, like from a compressor, or you can't get it on, you go down the garage, you start using some really high pressure that's got a lot of power behind it, the tyre can actually blow off the rim, or the rim can fail, or the tyre can fail, and you can have an explosion. Not only are you damaging your rim, damaging your tyre, then you can actually have sealant all over you, or bits and pieces of what broke could actually hit you and bed into your skin. You could have sealant in your eyes. So there is all the things that you need to be aware of when you're running these type of systems. They do work, but they are a complex system. And I do believe that they are the most complex system on the market currently. I run Tubeless, and okay, yeah, glue is a bit messy, but the process is kind of pretty intuitive. You know, you put glue or some double-sided tape on the rim, and then the tire's stuck on. And the tire is an enclosed membrane, and they can run at a lot higher pressures. They're a lot safer because their ceiling for their highest pressure is much, much higher than clinchers and also tubeless and hookless. So inherently they're a safer system. Plus also, if you get a blowout or a puncture, the tire stays on the rim, and even though it's not pumped up, you still have some tire material stuck to the rim. It doesn't separate from the rim as it does with a clincher or tubeless or a hookless. And we've also seen failures starting to appear. We had GP Llama. He had some of his zip hookless fail just because it hit a rock, and they were supposed to be gravel wheels on gravel tires on a gravel bike. It kind of was a bit amazing that that happened, especially on a rim, a Zip rim, which is a high name brand, although the Zip replaced it, no questions asked. But you need to be aware using this technology, it cannot sustain the same pressures that some people may have run in the past. You know, we used to like say 100, or I pump mine up to 100, 120 PSI. These new systems can't handle those sorts of pressures, and you're risking them failing. And also when you're using compressors, which have a lot of energy behind them, then you must be careful, maybe at least wear some glasses and wear some sort of full material, long sleeves and long pants if you're going up the garage and doing this, to give you some sort of protection. Well, anyway, guys, if you've had any bad experiences with tubeless or hookless, or you've had good experiences with tubeless or hookless, leave your comments down below. Let everyone know, let the community know what you think, how you fit them, what's your process, how do you get your tubeless reliable, have you got a process that you've developed over putting them on after experimenting with them and getting it 100%. Let the guys know down below who are considering using them. And that's where I'm going to leave it, guys, and I will see you next vid.